For people that are insecure or maybe living in fear and living by the ego, they have conditions and expectations and agendas, right? Because if I'm afraid, I'm frightened with life, then I need life to be a certain way so that I'm not afraid. But if I'm in ownership, I'm dealing with my fear. I'm sitting with my ego.
Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, people feel like they're in right, like they're doing it for somebody else's betterment, or they're doing it because they see that it's better their way, right? And whenever we fall into that trap, I feel is that whenever I feel that something is better for someone, they just don't see it, but I see it, I should show them. That's the trap of the ego. And what can be done about that at the moment when I'm manipulating positively and I don't notice that it's from my ego self?
Well, your answer is going to be in what's the payoff? What are you getting? What am I getting from it? Am I more worthy? As soon as I notice that I got, like skin in the game, why? Why am I attached to this outcome? Why do I need this outcome to be that way? Yes. Where are my attachments? And why do I need them? What happens if I get them? What happens if I don't? And you just play it out. Anytime that we step into somebody else's story to whatever it is, because we want to make it better, because we want to, anytime we put ourselves into something that isn't ours, it's self-abandonment. And every time we abandon or betray ourselves, that's another step towards resentment. If we're not aware that we're doing it, we will point that resentment at the person or people.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the next podcast with Tammy. Today, we are going to be unraveling a little bit more about our ego personalities, identities, and I want to make sure that ego doesn't just get a bad rep and that we understand a little bit more deeply what is required for our persona, not to act from this egoistic personality, but more so from the personality that is inclusive, that is open, that is connected to the source itself. And why do I want to make sure we understand ego a little bit better? Is because that's typically the very thing that is in between the essence of love that we are and the life that we want. So oftentimes revealing where the ego has its grip helps us to reach more peace and freedom. So help me welcome once again Tammy, and let's unravel this ego concept. Everybody, welcome Tammy back, and let's go into the next set of questions here with regards to ego and kind of like how we perceive the ego. I know that a lot of times people talk about, oh, that's ego is bad and it needs to be killed kind of thing. I've heard also expression ego is edging God out, which I like in sense that really you're detaching from the godness that's within us all. And it's very important that we have this ego, which I would refer to as a personality in this life, in this persona that we are in this body, in order to process life, in order to actually go through the experiences that we go through. I feel personally that the problem happens when we begin to be not aware of the fact that the ego is actually driving the car that we have. In this case, again, an analogy for the life that we're processing during our drive, quote unquote. And I want to shine a little bit light on the ego's function in this podcast, and how is it helpful at times and how is it hindering at times, where we could utilize the power of the personality, the power of the, whether we say ego again or your own identity. Okay, so which the ego really is your own identity. However, where I feel we get again a little bit skewed point of view is that we don't realize that ego was built since the childhood when our brain wasn't fully developed. And there's a lot of protective mechanisms that were set up at the back of our mind, so in our subconscious mind. And the ego basically pulls from the past to protect us in the future. So any kind of situation that we end up in may the ego may jump in, and or the part of us that feels the fear that will jump in say, oh, careful, last time we did this we hurt really bad, so let's make sure that we're not doing that again. And now the protective mechanism kicks in. So can we, what would be the, for you, for instance, like what would be the best way to, not maybe not the best way, but how do you see this from your perspective, where the ego may be helpful and where the ego may be actually not so helpful? Let's just say that.
Well, if I'm existing in full love of the truth of the divine being that I am, and I'm truly sovereign in that, then all that comes to me is for me and helpful, because I have, from that state of being, from that beingness, I'm able to discern and look at whatever the ego is presenting me. I can look at it with clarity, which means I know, is this true? Is it real? Is this a story? Am I really in danger? Or is it a story? So the whole beginning of it, and which is everything always comes back to it, it's whatever state of beingness that we make conscious choice to live in, right? And we choose to have that self-awareness, self-responsibility, and I'm in charge of this and everything that has to do with me, how I think. And so from there, though, the ego, yes, it's trying to keep us safe, but the fear piece, right? Fear is ego. Anything other than compassion and love is ego based, fear based. So fear would tell us that we need protection. We need to be protected. Okay. Sometimes we do need to be protected, but protection doesn't discriminate. So if we go out into the world protected, so things, we don't want bad come to us, the fear stuff to happen, so we protect. Well, that protection is going to keep everything out. Protection, you can't say, okay, protection, just keep that out, but let all the good stuff come. It doesn't work that way. The point is to be completely within your own being and able to see it all and use it and befriend it, call it in, lean into it. Again, with the questions like, why? Whatever's coming to you, ask it why. Is it real? Is it true? And then go from there. But from a state of fear, you can't, that it doesn't, you're only going to produce wherever we are. So if we're in a state of fear, we're only going to produce input that's fear-based, because you can't be in, faith and love and fear at the same time. They can't exist together. So it's like, it's a simplified, but that's the truth of it.
I love that it's simplified because, sometimes we make it a little bit too complex for our liking, really. Actually, even the way that I pose the question, it's coming obviously from the mind, but I also wanted to make sure that people feel, the audience that feels out there, that feels like, yeah, how do I change my mind with my mind?
And it's almost like, if even so, like, let's back it up even further.
Yeah.
So if ego's coming in and it's enough to sort of stop you, and you're affected, right? And you're in the thinking, you're considering it, you're thinking about it, it's getting in. Just the fact that those ego thoughts or beliefs or whatever it is, just the fact that it's coming in and you have to sort of talk yourself down off it, out of it, that alone lets you know that that something's a little off, and maybe focus in and see where you're not in that loving state.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's always, for me, that's the first thing I do. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm noticing something and even kind of going down that path, I must be wobbly somewhere. And then of course, am I tired? Am I overwhelmed? Is there just a lot going on? Or am I starting to drift into this a little bit? Is there more work I need to do to tune in? And, where's my meter on my tank of self love, self awareness, all of that? Where's that? Because if it's low, then those thoughts are gonna come in and they're gonna be a little bit more.
I'm happy that you just pointed that out because there's one of the things that I noticed for myself very early on in my own evolution that the oftentimes the issue here, as you're pointing out, is the energy level.
Yeah.
So do I have enough energy to process something? Basically, simple as that. If you're
Right.
trying to process something, you're gonna need certain amount of processing power.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, obviously, as human beings, it's the energy, right? So computers, similarly, you have, processors, you have microprocessors, right? You have all sorts of parts in the computer that help the computer function most efficiently and effectively. And
Right.
so, if I don't have enough energy, I can't really approach any situation with love. Again, in that state of love requires a ton. Again, back to the light and lighthouses. I can have light if I have enough energy. So, if the energy is there, light is there. If the energy
Mm-hmm.
isn't there, light is not there. That's all it
Yeah.
is. And now you have just shade or shadows or darkness, which is again okay.
Mm.
But without the light, choices in how we live, how we be, become a little bit more limited. It's
Yeah.
like moving through a dark room. How much do you have to slow down to move around versus if there is light? You can be fairly efficient and effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, in that sense. So thank you for pointing that out. I feel it's a huge, little important detail where you
Mm-hmm.
can't be in that loving state and understand that you're acting from place of ego if you don't have enough energy. So, I mean, straightforward as it is, but it's not always easy to understand.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel my own ego come up, and oftentimes I don't because I don't notice it. I don't realize that it is there.
Mm.
And when I do, it's easier to say, okay, where do I feel I need to have a little bit more of a soothing happening kind of thing
Mm.
versus yeah, I'm gonna be hard on myself and hard on people around me again because that's my MO. Okay,
Mm.
well, that used to be. Now that you know that that's part of you that isn't necessarily real, that it was something you constructed to protect yourself, what can you do with that now? It's like, oh, that gives me a whole array of ways to respond, So it's like, oh, I could do other
Mm-hmm.
things. I could actually just not mind whatever's happened and be with it, like we talk about, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and just move on. And respect again is just back to what we were saying earlier, is that respecting the space of someone's processing.
Yeah. And you know, ego is a really beautiful teacher.
Yes.
Because what if we lean in and say, oh, like my question would be to you or to anyone who we're having a conversation about ego. Well, where do I see it the most? Like, in what situations with what people? Does it happen more in work relationships? Does it happen more in, and then what topics like spike it? Are there certain topics? Are there certain just themes that seem to bring it out more? And it'll point you to where it's like Peter Crone says, and like point you to where you're not free. Well, the inquiry will always point you to where you're not free. If you look at where the pain, the ego, whatever the emotion that's coming as your awareness to
Yeah.
get your attention, like the notification goes off. Like
Hmm.
if the engine light goes off in the car, but none of the specific things are lit, but it's just an engine light.
Hmm.
Well, okay, you got to go find out, like, what is it?
Hmm.
What part of the engine isn't working well?
Hmm.
And we could panic and be like, oh my God, my car's broken and I can't get anywhere. And then we could go like, I can't go to this and that, and start thinking about everything we're going to miss, and then how much money it could cost. And then, maybe we need a new windshield wiper. Mm-hmm. And now we just spent, 10 minutes, like, Chicken Little and the sky is falling, and, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I'm going to miss every appointment and everybody's going to be mad at me. And I mean, in a second, it can go there.
Yeah. And in a second, it could go away.
Maybe not even come at all. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. 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 The quote from Peter Crone here is the ego doesn't want to be healed, it wants to be held. And when I heard that also, I really heard that, and it connected a lot in the sense that further he speaks about the ego is a voice of a child that is asking to be held because it feels unsafe. And if you really approach that from that perspective, that again, if you have enough energy, you can be love, you can see that.
Yeah.
Right. You can see that little detail. Otherwise, if you don't have enough energy, I feel like you don't see it, and you see the crazy person in front of you yelling at you, or the impatient husband or wife that wants something from you, and you're like freaking out. And that's again seeing it from I don't have enough energy, so now protective mechanism steps in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you speak to that a little bit, maybe from your own experience?
Yeah. We'll always see what we feel. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's always about about the feeling. It's just like whether you're talking about manifestation and to be in the feeling of what you desire, not in the other outcomes of it. It's all about feeling, which is why awareness, why everything is pointed towards that. Mm-hmm. Because that's where it all is. And mm-hmm. if we're going to be in love and of and for ourselves, that means all the parts, all of it. So the ego, like, there's a I think it's halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, is like a pause for a moment, like you're speaking to, of okay, this is happening. Mm-hmm. I've decided that it's something I need to look at, something that needs my attention. That doesn't mean we just jump in and expect ourselves to like handle it. Mm-hmm. So if we give the consideration and we pause for a moment and we sort of assess ourselves, like, okay, I have this big thing I need to think about. Okay, this needs my attention, but I know it's going to take a lot out of me. Maybe it's personal, maybe it's about family, maybe it's stuff that's close to our heart, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to require some planning. So maybe, okay, if mornings are my quiet time and I have time for myself, and that's the time that I feel the most connected and aligned, then I'm going to set aside one morning and I'm going to sit down and whatever your practice is, journal, meditate, whatever it might be. But like, set yourself up for success. Mm-hmm. Know yourself well enough. If you were dealing with a child and you really needed them to focus, you had something really important to tell them, and you needed them to be 100% focused with you, you're going to set the stage. Like, you're not going to do it, like after school when they're wound up. You're not going to do it right before bedtime or in the morning when they're grumpy. You're going to wait and to what you think is the best possible time for you to bring up this thing that has the potential to upset them or that they don't want to do or whatever. So it's not about being a pushover or weak, but why wouldn't you set yourself up to get the best result from yourself? And so it's just some consideration, it's not, again, like, it's not weakness or hiding behind something, or like, the goal is not to be able to go through life and not feel anything. And if we do feel something, the quicker you can get past it and through it, oh, that means you're wiser or you're stronger, or no, it isn't. And so for me, it's the best when I face it and bring it in. Mm-hmm. When I look the monster in the face and say, yeah, come on in and sit down, it's much less threatening than me trying to hold the door shut to something that's stronger than me and trying to go and maybe padlock it or put effort through to try to keep something out. That takes a lot of energy, and it's negative energy. It's going to do nothing but drain us.
Yeah.
And then whatever the problem is, it's just going to grow while it's out there, and it's going to get more angry, and it's going to bang harder on the door. So like, invite it in, but assess yourself first and make sure that you're in the frame of mind to receive it.
What would that look like, if I may ask? Like, what would that look like for you when you invite that fear in, and just like whatever it is that's coming at you? Some example that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's the scariest thing that I'm doing, because sometimes I don't know, but if if I'm living according to my life's mission and my life's intention, then that means that I have faith, and that means that somewhere that I know that I'm going to be okay, and I know that it's something good is going to come of it. I also am really careful not to have expectations, agendas, or conditions. So I'm going to do the stuff like, okay, get myself positioned and be in the best frame of mind that I can, if that timing is possible to me, if I'm not in an emergency or crisis situation where I need to act on the spot. I'm going to do that part. But then I'm going to go out on the branch, and if it doesn't hold me, then, then I'll fly like that. I know it's, we say it and it's something that's used a lot, and it seems like, yeah, okay. But really that's what it is, because what's the point of it all then? What's the point of reading the books, writing the books, sitting and communing with people and expanding and growing and doing all this stuff that we call work? What's the point if we can't rely upon it when we need to walk into something that's going to be hard? And, look, sometimes I've learned, I've sort of learned when it's time to sort of bow my head and just protect myself from the storm and just be like, okay. And then when to be out and stand up and go out towards something. But it's through all this awareness work that I know, and that now I can be in a crisis emergency situation, and I can access it now. But that's only because if I don't keep up the awareness, then that's going to fade away.
Yes.
But
yeah, beautiful.
yeah.
That brings me to a next part of this, is that if there is awareness that some sort of activity, some sort of action that we do in daily life is triggering again. So I'll use that word because it's fairly easy to understand. So you feel frustration, you feel anger, you feel any kind of a negative emotion, feeling come out, from which, of course, the negative thoughts, more of them will be produced, and then you start protecting all that stuff. When we are in that space and we have awareness of that's happening, there is the ability for us to choose otherwise. And without the awareness, really, there's no change, right? If you don't have awareness about something that is happening in your life, you're not gonna change it, okay? Especially the male population in this world, I feel, is so resistant to any sort of emotion, really any sort of emotion. Men specifically talk about, oh my God, my wife, she's so emotional, or whoever, like my friend, she is so emotional. It's exhausting, right? And this is what happens in a male's world. This is what the guys oftentimes talk about, because for a typical male person, obviously this goes back to hunter-gatherer days, where it's like for male is to provide, to get the food on the table, to protect, right? And again, provide, protect, that's ego's role. That's the identity. We oftentimes wrap up our identity in that. And this becomes the love for the male, I feel, is that if the woman is appreciating, and I don't want to say just male to female relationships, with male to male, female to female. I don't mind any of that, but the feminine and the masculine in a relationship is going to be the masculine will want to provide, will want to make sure that there's some sort of safety. Okay, and then again, it isn't necessarily something to be pushed away, something to frown upon, something to be scared of, even. It's something to be embraced and allowed, and it's not something to take over our
Hmm.
lives. And on the
Right.
contrary, then from the feminine side, it's super important to be nurturing to the masculine. It's super important to be grounding, right? And that the kind of providing, receptive, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, too much of that also, like going into the extreme with emotions all the time. It's
Yeah.
like it's just that becomes too much, of course,
Mhm.
on both ends. And I feel that mostly it's a masculine that has troubles, obviously, to decide where the ego is too much. Although, as I say that, I feel like in feminine world it can be equally prominent. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's another, I mean, yeah, that could be the next, 500 probably podcasts and talk about a rabbit hole. But no,
Right.
I agree with you. And I mean, my personal opinion is
Mhm.
that as a woman, is that I think that men need to be offered a break a little bit,
Mm.
because I think that as women, this a mixed signal can be, oh, a woman may say, No, I want a man that's, emotional, that's sensitive, that can talk with me and meet with me and sit with me and show his emotions and be fine."
Mhm.
But when the man does that, and then if he's called weak, that's not fair. And can we really be that surprised then when the man closes up and then gets punished, or, oh, you're cold and you're not? No, he's actually very feeling, but he's in his role. And so if both are allowed to be fully, truly in their true nature, true role, then both come together at 100%. It's not 50-50.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not 50-50. Nobody completes the other one, but if both come in at 100
Yeah.
and operating it that way, in all, within themselves, within their life, like everything, whether business, everything embodied, right? Then it's the only where to go is up, and both are going to inspire the others, whether
Mhm.
they're, own a business together and they're working together, or separate. It doesn't really matter how much you have in common. I don't think it's about compatibility and how much people have in common,
Mhm.
because I can sit with someone who's never ever had a conversation about awareness or consciousness,
Mhm.
and I've had 5-hour conversations with people, but it doesn't necessarily, like, they might not look like that. It might not be what they do all the time.
Mhm.
And, like, just everybody should be able to be at their 100. And there's just a lot of judgment, like, for people that are insecure or maybe living in fear and living by the ego. They have conditions and expectations and agendas, right? Because if I'm afraid, I'm frightened with life, then I need life to be a certain way so that I'm not afraid. But if I'm in ownership, I'm dealing with my fear. I'm sitting with my ego.
Mhm.
I'm coming into whatever that means for
Mhm.
me, not, well, the world needs to change.
Mhm.
That, I mean, it's just not even, but I think that happens a lot. And unknowingly, I mean, compassion to everyone, because it's, really often that nobody, that you don't know that it's that's happening, right? But I do, I just, on that, I think that men need a little bit of a break, I think. Yeah, I'm
Thank
trying
you.
not to go too off on a tangent, but it's just how I feel, because I see it a lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, every person, right, not just men or not just
Hmm.
women, every person has a very different constitution, right? So we are also so different, obviously similar in sense as well, but a lot of different
Yeah.
uniqueness kind of angle on life, how we've processed. And so in that sense, the way I approach my students and or clients is that I literally just feel them as they step in front of me,
Yeah.
and on the spot, I will get some sort of a download about what they need, and,
Yeah.
and I can prepare for some of the sessions or whatever. At the same time, a lot of times, a lot of that just goes out a window because it just kind of comes to what it is at the moment, present in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my perception of that, and their perception of their life, etc. But I wanted to
Yeah.
also talk to a little bit to the negativity and the positivity in manipulation is what I was saying, that obviously manipulation belongs to ego typically, whether it's positive or negative. So I know we touched on that in previous podcast. And I wanted to say that from my personal experience, I found myself again at times not manipulating purposefully, but
Hmm.
still utilizing the ego for manipulation, even into positive. And
Yeah.
so it's still, again, just not respecting other person when we do that. And no matter how much you want to help someone, I feel, no matter how much you see that they could use your help or someone else's help, if they're not asking,
Yeah.
that boundary needs to not be crossed, and that's to be respected again.
Yeah.
And because again, I mean, to me, that's someone is then not just open to learn, and they will, no matter what you say, will just not hear it anyway.
Yeah.
And so that in that,
Mhm.
oftentimes our ego gets wrapped up into that too, I feel. And knowing for myself that that happens, or noticing that that happens,
Mm.
what can be done about that at the moment? I think I already know your answer, but what could be done around when I notice that I'm manipulating positively and I don't notice that it's from my ego self? What could I do differently? Obviously, I'm gonna have to change some behavior somewhere, but if
Well, your answer is going to be in what's the payoff? What are you getting?
oh
So
oh
regardless, whether you're manipulating to create more love or whether you're manipulating to whatever, it doesn't, like, whether it's negative or positive,
uh-huh
like, let's even just take that away and
yeah
just manipulation.
yeah
So if I want to change something that I am doing, I have awareness, this is happening. Okay. What am I getting from it?
hmm
Am I more worthy? If I can manipulate everybody in my family or a job, whatever, if I can manipulate a group to be more loving and I want everybody to get along and there's tension and I don't like the tension. And so if I'm manipulating to get everybody to get along, why am I afraid of people not getting along? What does it mean? Why am I concerned whether or not other people are getting along? It's none of
mm,
my business. Why am I interjecting myself
mm,
into that?
mm,
And if I can pull the whole thing off, what do I get? Am I more worthy? Am I more loved? Am I included in the group now?
mhm,
Am I respected? If it's going the other way, do I have more power? Now, do I have power over everyone? Okay, why do I need power over everyone?
mhm,
Why do I need to be the big dog? Why
mhm,
do I need to be the alpha here? Why do I need to be any different? Why can't I be with everyone? Why
mhm,
am I uncomfortable with that? And it'll show you, like, it'll come quickly.
mhm.
But yeah, it's
It's
for
coming
me
right now.
it's a quick, like, okay, what's my payoff? I try to,
Yeah,
for me, like, it's things have to be simple because I want to be able to access it right away. And
yeah.
so it's, yeah, what's my payoff here? As soon as I notice that I'm I got, like, skin in the game,
Mhm,
why?
mm,
Why am I attached to this outcome? Why do I need this outcome to be that way? Where are
Yes.
my attachments? And why do I need them? What happens if I get them? What happens if I don't? And you just play it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful way to play it out, really, for us. I think that awareness, again, once it comes, that if you ask yourself that question, like, what is my payoff on this or that, whatever it is, whether it's negative or positive, obviously doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, as what I was trying to say with that is that oftentimes people feel like they're in right, like they're doing it for somebody else's betterment, or they're
Yeah.
doing it because they see that it's better their way, right? And
Mhm.
whenever we fall into that trap, I feel is that whenever I feel that something is better for someone, they just don't see it, but I see it, I should show them.
Mhm.
That's the trap of the ego. And
Yeah.
it's fine, it's okay to be in that space, but once you again bring awareness to that and ask yourself literally that, okay, why am I manipulating that circumstance? Why am I manipulating this, maybe this person, how they behave? What is
Mhm.
my payoff behind that? And one of the things you pointed out, it typically comes down to self-worth. It's like if I'm in my case scenario, for instance, if I was to keep the family together because it seemed that most people in the family did not seem interested in interacting,
Mhm.
and I felt like I want to have this family, I want to be part of this community, right?
Mhm.
And it matters to me. And now I start to subtly manipulate that I will attach to um, making sure that everybody is heard and understood. And
Yeah.
oftentimes it's against me. It's like I'm not getting my time. I'm not getting any, I'm putting myself down in sense to make sure that I attend to them. Okay. And in that sense, it's again the not seeing, not noticing the manipulation. And so I feel like what you said is that if you ask yourself the question, what is my payoff from this? What do I get from this? How does that really, why does that work for me? Or what in that works for me? The
Yeah.
the answer I feel comes, it did come instantly. So yeah, one of the things that I have had in my life, I'll share, is that since I've known myself, I've I wanted to have things be efficient and effective, like specifically these two words. Now, if I peel it off again at the end, says
Mhm.
why. Okay, so why efficient and effective? Because I felt maybe in my other lifetime or concurrent lifetime, whatever, and somewhere else, part of me, part of my soul felt like I've wasted some lives before by
Mm.
not being efficient, effective in it. Okay, so I want it to be effective and efficient. So I
Mm.
would maybe strive to get higher, taller, more enlightened, whatever the bar is, right? And if the bar has to be there, if I'm not being in the present moment, that's an ego striving for something that isn't necessary, literally missing out on life. And when I found that the way to actually be in that space is to slow down, my mind was crazy. It's like, no way are we slowing down.
Yeah.
We're trying to get everything efficient and effective. Can't slow down. And I was like, no, I'm gonna, do this Tai Chi thing. It seems like super slow.
Mhm. Yeah.
My mind was screaming. But anyway, so again, with that, how would you say in your life has something like this presented that you notice about yourself where you put a stop to it? That it was like, oh, I see that this is what I was doing. I see that this is how I thought it was right for me to have this kind of a opinion, word with someone where something that maybe seemed better with something that you provided, the service you provided, or words or with wisdom or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so many areas. I mean, it happens with almost anything that comes to be transformed. And the outcome of it, like for me, the big mark or the thing that I felt or realized that really stopped me and showed me how important it was, anytime that we step into somebody else's story to whatever it is, because we want to make it better, because we want to, anytime we put ourselves into something that isn't ours, it's self-abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and every time we abandon or betray ourselves, that's another like step towards resentment. If we're not aware that we're doing it, we will point that resentment at the person or people.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are we going and, okay, I'm going to go and, okay, I'm a mom and I'm going to make sure that the house is always spotless and everybody's always happy and fed. Everybody has their favorite meals every night. And I'm going to do all of these things to make everybody behave happily, because then I'm more comfortable. So I'm doing all of these things for these people out there, all on my own. I've not been asked. I've not been told, Tammy, you better be this way or else you're kicked out of the family. None of that happened. Completely my choice, because I determined that that's what I needed to do, because that is what marks me as worthy. If I can meet all these standards that I have created. But because there's other people involved, and if I'm not realizing that I'm the one that created it and I'm the one that's responsible, I'm going to look at all of them. So now we have these resentments towards people who they didn't even have any part in it. They're just living their lives and doing their thing and being who they are. Right? So that's the piece, is the self-abandonment. And I would say, probably being a mom, but it followed me everywhere. There wasn't anywhere where it wasn't. Because if I feel insecure or I feel unworthy, it's everywhere. Like, you don't just feel unworthy in one or two places.
Right.
Like, it follows you wherever you go, because it's you. So, wherever you go, there it be, right? And so, yeah, I would say probably that, like, these false standards that we can put on ourselves of, this is how I have to be and this is what I have to do and say, be, all of that. It's not real or true.
Mm-hmm.
And so it never gets filled. It never gets done. You'll never have success, so you'll never have, like, the reward or the feeling that you're looking for, the desire. It can't come. But until you're in awareness and self-responsibility, you'll always call it a failure, because you failed to make it happen. So now you're walking around, you don't feel worthy, you call yourself a failure, and you keep failing every day because you keep doing something that you can't possibly win at. So, welcome to the show, man. Fasten your seatbelt. Like, it's going to be a rough ride.
Yeah.
So if we pause and just be, it's all on us.
Yes. Again, the self-reflection, that's a huge thing. Again, there was another piece of something that I was listening to by Peter Crone again, was any suffering and any concerns we experience belong to ego. And so anything that is, again, we oftentimes refer to as triggering events or triggering people. The ego is, again, the mechanism that runs that. And or mind construct is also another reference, I would say. Right. And let's say I'm perceiving something that is frustrating, something that makes me feel angry, because I'm resisting to the idea of what is. Okay. And then because I can't accept what is, I'm making a story in my mind that is not allowing, there's no space to allow, is the space to only manipulate the circumstances to make sure that I feel safe. Again, back to like what the payoff is from a behavior that we do.
Right.
And then so if I look at something that, let's say, I notice that I'm getting upset about something that is frustrating and making me angry. Now I judge myself for getting angry and frustrated. And that reflection goes back in the loop. that now I'm perpetuating that judgment upon myself. And when I'm judging myself, I can't act in any different way, any nicer, kinder way to the outer environment either. Because the judgment now exists within me of myself for something that I worked myself up for. And now everybody else around me is also, or I will really contribute to making angry and frustrated because that's the, again, reflection that I'm giving to myself from the experience that I'm perceiving. And now shining that energy back outside of me. And then, then oftentimes the mind is so surprised when people starting to react to me with such a, short tempers or angrily. And it's like, okay, well, you started it really. So,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
like in this
Well,
case, I have started it. So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as you were talking, like the next thing I was going to bring up was judgment, because of
Yes.
course, because that's what happens in it all. Like as you build this and you create the story, and it's like, to me, judgment, like when we judge, it's like locking yourself in a room, in a dark room,
Hmm.
with all of the pain and suffering, like all of the stuff, all the pain.
Hmm.
Judgment locks you in a room with it. There's no light, there's nothing open, it's closed and it's dark, and you're just surrounded by all the stuff that you're judging.
Hmm.
Awareness, it opens all the windows, it opens all the doors, like nothing is closed, it opens everything up. It
Hmm.
brings light in.
Hmm.
It doesn't remove all that, you're still in the room, and maybe you still have all the boxes of stuff, right? If all the judgment and all the things were in boxes, just to give a visual,
Hmm.
like they're all still there. But going through the boxes, looking at them, sorting through, and deciding and doing a cleaning,
Hmm.
doing it in the dark as
Hmm.
opposed to doing it with windows open and fresh air coming in, you're in a whole different situation. Back to the point of like, position yourself. Like, don't go and sit in the dark when you're exhausted and tired, and you didn't eat good that day, and you've worked 3 overnight shifts, and then sit down and, okay, now this is the time I'm going to go sit down, I'm going to go through all my stuff, and I'm going to do it, and expect this loving like outcome of this enlightenment everybody talks about. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen, because you're just going to be in a dark room.
Yeah.
Awareness, okay, it's still the same amount of boxes, it's still the same stuff, it's still the same issues, but it's light, there's air, you can breathe, and you can just take your time. But only we can make that decision to go about it that way. That's why we're never victims. It doesn't matter. You could have a house full of rooms full of stuff. Some people have more to deal with than others, but it it's still like that willingness to make that effort. We're not a victim. Like having enough stuff doesn't make you a victim. There's no like quota. Well, if you have this many things, or if you have, this kind of trauma or pain, yeah, no, then you're allowed to be, you're go ahead and be judgmental. You're allowed. You'll be okay, because you got permission. Like you're never a victim. Never.
Yeah, that's a huge, such a revealing little statement, just you're never a victim.
No.
And as much as I mean, I see and hear this behavior of a victim everywhere around.
Yeah.
Simple things, simple things.
Hmm.
Even such simple as I want to protect mom, dad from something because they can't, and just kind of like taking away their ability to decide for themselves, and just doing that out of, let's say, goodness of the heart. I'll put that in air quotes because we are overriding the will of the person, that we are bestowing our goodness upon them, let's just say. And I feel that we don't see that the victimhood comes out in all sorts of forms whenever we don't claim responsibility for just our well-being, just our well-being, not other people's well-being, just our. because it's very easy to turn my attention to someone else. Let's say that I have so much stuff that I could be working on, but I'm just gonna like push that aside. Let's see
Mm,
if I can help someone else instead. No, I mean, for me, it's like the most changes came into my life when I actually decided to start working on myself versus trying to help everybody else around me. And that really where I started to see most changes in
mm,
awareness rising, energy rising, energy blocks dropping off, and the limiting beliefs vanishing. And uh, that's kind of like what happens once we give up that position of victimhood, as we spoke in the very first podcast, and
yeah.
about the victimhood as it being a first stage of kind of understanding the life from that perspective. Because I'm not a victim of the circumstance or people around me. I have
Yeah.
my own value, and I have my own sovereignty, and
Mm,
and you know
yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah. It's like what comes to mind as you were talking is that we are louder and more effective as an example of the transformation that happens within us
Hmm.
than the cries of a victim, the poor me, and hoping that somebody, whether it's gives you a pass that you're allowed, you can just go act however you want because you're a victim, and everybody, people sort of let you do that. But like, if there's a message that you want to give,
Hmm.
right, and let's just use, okay, I'd like to have more love in the world, or within a family, or within a unit, a job, whatever. So rather than going in and sort of trying to manipulate or dictate, like, all right, y'all, you just need to act this way. It's going to be better if we do this. It's going to work. But all of that, just be an example
Hmm.
of the coworker you want to have, the relationship. Be an example of the peace you want, rather than yelling and being loud to get peace. It doesn't make sense. If
Hmm.
you feel like, if in your life, if you need to keep getting louder and like broader and more abrupt about the message or what you want to have, that there's a problem there, because the louder you get, that you're going to push everybody away that you hope to see change in. But if you stop and you do this work, this awareness we're talking about, you're an example of it,
Hmm.
and people hear and see and feel your example
Hmm.
more than when you're loud. They just tune you out. It's like a parent with a child.
Hmm.
They're just going to tune you out. You're just and they're just like, yeah, whatever, and they're just tuning you out. Show them how to be, you
Hmm.
know come to a place where you can be an example of what you want, and you'll find that the world will just start following you. And the ones that don't, you won't notice. They're not going to bother you, because you're not going to notice it, because you're so focused on yourself being an example of love. You're not going to notice people who aren't love.
Hmm.
You won't notice them, because they're not going to be, they can't be on the radar.
Their frequency is different.
Yeah. You can't, it's not going to meet. You won't even see them. You won't even notice.
Hmm.
And
Beautiful.
it's not easy, but it's that simple.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, I mean, like we said before, if it was all easy, we would be so bored.
Yeah. What would we do with our time?
Yeah. Meditate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but beautiful. Thank you again for such a sweet and just profound insights. Again, it's such a privilege to have you share a lot of this wisdom that comes through.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's beautiful. I feel the same way, that this is what it's all about.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, sharing our wisdoms and sharing connections that we have with one another and being accountable to one another. Again, if you're like you were just saying, if you're showing this loving state,
Hmm.
it will start sticking more and more. The less you show it, less it sticks. Again, this is like practice of anything. If you're really actually practicing something, it will start showing. If you really aren't practicing just talking about something, it will never show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, like, if you have a desire for, ask, like, daydream about what it would feel like. Like, if I sit with someone who is really like, No, I just, they can't even imagine having this piece that we talk about. They can't even fathom it. I'll say, daydream about what you think it would feel like to be the essence of love. Just daydream. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to write it down. Nobody's ever going to look at it or judge you for it or laugh at you, or it's between you and you. What would it feel like? And go back to your wonder as a child when you used to daydream about thinking you could fly, like these things. Do that. And if we tap into that, that'll bring you back and center you.
100%. And maybe if you don't mind, do a little bit of a practice for people out there. And since we talk about daydreaming, so one of the practices that I do is paying attention to our three energy centers within our human body. One is in your lower belly, which is more of an intuitive space. For those of you who understand the chakra system, it's a second chakra. So in the navel area. And then next one is the heart space. Point up here. So in the heart space again, the middle dantian, again, dantian translates as a center or energy center. And that's again the heart space, which is obviously the fourth chakra in Indian system. And then we have the sixth chakra, or the third eye chakra. Again, this is the upper dantian, is recognized in the Chinese system. And in this mind space, again, in your literally center of this mental body of yours, if you can get yourself into this feeling of what it feels like when you are daydreaming. I know that any one of you have daydreamed before. You know what that feeling is like. So let's sink into that for just a few moments. And one other thing that I like to do also to help with the awareness there, you don't have to do that part, or you can, is to point my hands at my own head and then relax my wrists a little bit, relax my hands, but extend my fingers. And then just feeling as you breathe in slowly, expanding the space, and breathe out slowly, compressing the space. Just like your lungs are moving, expanding. So match that movement with your breath. So if you're breathing slower, which I encourage, just moving those hands in and out. Soften your shoulders as you're sitting, soften your elbows, and just point from wherever towards your face. You can feel free to close your eyes at this point and just feel that space for a moment between your hands as you breathe in, feeling like that space expands. And as you close, compress the space. As you exhale out, soften in your whole body. Take a breath, very slowly in and very slowly out. Now bring awareness to the space that is directly between your ears and the space that is between your center of your head, front and back. So right in the middle of your brain, as though you're looking backwards with your eyes. Just feel that space. Breathe into that space, expand that space, and then compress that space. As you're compressing that space, everything loosens, softens, releases. And as you expand that space, it becomes more open, more spacious. Now feeling into that feeling like when you daydream. Just really, breath is not even noticed. Just allowing yourself to float in there for a moment. That quietness in the mind. And then if you ever get tired with the arms being up, you can always let them down and just feel the space around your head. Soften. Wherever you feel tension in the body, release it. Return your awareness back to the center of your head. And breathe into that space. And visualize, if you want, in the middle of your head, like a little sunshine. As you breathe in, that sunshine expands like a little halo around you, a sphere of light. And as you slowly exhale, feeling that sphere of light, releasing and lighting up the entire body of yours and the space around you. Sink into that. And feel free to be with that for as long as you want. And if or whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and just feel your body where you are. Notice the lightness. Notice that pressure went away. All right. So, yeah, deep breaths. But again, even just like, what was it, 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes maybe? Just a little bit of space, a little bit of feeling inside, and then letting go, like you were saying on that, feeling that daydreaming like state. Just allowing to be there in that space with few breaths.
I was just gonna reflect back to the one we did a few times ago. I think we did it on the podcast with the feeling your heart breathing, and like there's the and maybe anytime I suppose, like when we add in our our hands and connect, like the hands to the breath, it's a reminder that this is all one. This is all working together. And then if we take that further, this is all working together on my behalf. Yeah. Every part of my being, every part of my body, therefore anything that I am a part of is in and on my behalf. Everything.
Yeah.
And my intention will drive the main, theme of things. And so even if it's painful things, that love will be what's carrying it and cushioning it and with you. But that it brings you back to that, and remember that you are all it. We are all it.
That's it. Yeah. So what I would follow with this particular practice, this is like one of the things, the mind is the noisiest out of everything and our whole being. The mind is the noisiest one. Okay. So if you really can take yourself out of the space of the noise into the quiet and just feel the breath in that space, everything else starts to calm down, everything else starts to release. And the tension that was created within that space, in that mental body, dissipates. It just dissolves, it goes away. And with that sensation, next part of this, you can go into the heart space and do a similar feeling. Then you feel your heart open wider. And with that openness of the heart, now the love starts pouring in. Yeah, so it's like this is the gate. If you release the gate, it can come in. The light can come in, whatever you're inviting. And so I love this practice, and we do that in every class, and it's just so quick, so easy, yet so underestimated.
Love that. Love that. I'm still in it.
Yes, exactly. And that's the point of meditation. When you're in that space, you feel that your speech slows down, your voice might get a little deeper, you feel more grounded, etc., because the noise stopped, right?
Yeah.
And so now the heart opens. And if you want to take it further, take it into your lower body, where you groundedly take action in the world that supports that state, that vibration.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, secrets out.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah. All right. So beautiful. Thank you again so much for joining me on this another podcast. That was fantastic. Looking forward again to the next one. And until then, take good care. And everybody, you guys, really breathe, relax into it, be with yourself, notice what's happening, and life will meet you where you are wanting to be in any sense. So
love that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you so much again for tuning in to our Awake and Aware podcast. It's always such a pleasure to share wisdom that comes through these conversations, and trust that whoever is on the other end receiving is going to be able to find some epiphany and trust that any of these words are going to land and improve your quality of life. And if you're enjoying these conversations, subscribe, like us, hit the bell so you're notified of the next upcoming episode. And of course, let us know in comments if there's any specific theme that you would like us to talk about and go over to help you understand some of your quote-unquote reality that you are perceiving at this moment. One last quote that is again from our mutual teacher, Peter Crone. The ego's number one prerogative is to be right about its own existence. And it needs to be because its own existence is fictitious. So the ego needs evidence because it is not real. Think about that, feel into that. Our ego, our personality, is a master in wearing masks. For as long as there is a mask, there is no true essence. As long as there is something to hide and something to prove, we will be wearing masks. But when you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to prove, you will know you are free. You will feel that love, that freedom that comes with it. Until the next time, I look forward to having you tune in again, and take good care.